Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. I mean, seriously, they're just awful. And my very special guest joining me today is Brad Flutey, coming in as live from are you at the Marsden Point Refinery or at an undisclosed location at this point?
Yeah, I'm at an undisclosed location. I have no fixed abode.
Ah, righty-ho. The life of a protester. And thank you very much, Brad, for joining us. We'll be coming to him in just a second. Firstly, just a word to our sponsors, meaning you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for all of you who've been making your donations and setting up your automatic payments and getting us around the place and sharing the links and streams with people while we're live. Hopefully you'll be doing that right now by clicking that share button voraciously. Other than that, you can go to thevinnyeastwoodshow.com and click on the little donate tab there, and you can get a guest on the show if you want. If you've donated, just send, hey, Vinny, get this guy on the show. I'll be like, all right. You can have a private call with Vinny, and you could get my help with your media project or idea, and you get access to the Secret Donors Club on Facebook. All the rewards are down the bottom of the donate page there. When you say click here for your special rewards, you can donate via PayPal, KiwiBank, or support us via the band on Patreon and listen to some of our music there as well. We have two sponsors for the show, long-running, HoldenHealthCare.com. David Holden's a naturopathic oncologist specialising in hard-to-treat cases. And so if you have a loved one, or if you yourself have gone through the medical ringer and getting medication after medication that seem to only make the problem worse, maybe think about going to HoldenHealthCare.com, who are specialists in these hard-to-treat cases, because they work with you and get to know you and all these things that affect your health in a very holistic manner, with a big team that bring over 100 years experience to the table. Additionally, our other sponsor, Reopen.nz, is a directory of anti-mandate pro-choice, all-inclusive businesses in New Zealand. We'd encourage you to go to reopen.nz and add your freedom business there and join all the other people that have already put their businesses up there. Now, returning to our guest now, Brad Flutey, who's been, what did Sue and Kiwi say? He's not the head of everything, but he's doing everything he can. or something along those lines with regards to Marsden Point and the dig-in up there. Now, a lot of people were unaware before this thing happened that New Zealand even had a refinery. You know, they could even refine stuff from crude oil. And now we're talking about this bitumen supplement, which is the sticky stuff that sticks the stones on the road, being eroded away somewhat because of the shutdowns of this refinery and the various kerfuffles of monetary scumbaggery that go through it. And now we're having people having chips on their windscreens left, right, and centre all round the place because they ain't got the right bitumen. Life's a bitumen, and then you die, they say. Brad Flutey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vinny. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Marsden Point used to make some of the best quality bitumen in the world, and now for the last 18 months it hasn't been making bitumen. They shut down the bitumen plant, and I think there was a good quote made by Elon Musk, of all people. He said, if you don't make things, you can't have things. And the reason why he said that is because if you can't make things, then you won't be able to have things because of the exponential rise of inflation. If all you have is printing money and the creation of intangible value, then your tangible value will cost too much and nobody can have anything.
Yeah. I think it's coming down to the point where Agenda 21 is in full swing, and they don't want independence with nations. They want interdependence, so that any nation that decides to say, no, we don't want this, you can just squeeze them with all the resources you can, get them monstrously into debt, and then take their strategic assets.
Yes. So interesting. We managed to influence Christopher Luxon enough at one of his meetings to change his narrative from the refinery, from it being mothballed to calling it a strategic asset. I'm not sure he's going to continue doing that from now on, but it is a strategic asset if you want to make sure that you have security of supply and have some form of independence when it comes to fuel, bitumen, sulfur fertilizer, captures CO2. There's a vast array of things that a refinery can produce. And if you have a refinery, then you have some form of independence. If you have less refineries, as we're seeing internationally, your prices go up, your prices skyrocket. And if they're allowed to continue shutting refineries down around the world, it's just going to continue to increase.
Now, let's look, of course, in the background of this. People don't know where the oil industry really came from, and it came from the Primarch Big Bill Rockefeller. What did he do for a living? He was a traveling snake oil salesman. He'd roll into town, have with the substance, tell everybody how great it was and what it could do, pay off shills in the crowd that said, yeah, cured my baldness. And then, when everybody had been suckered in and he'd take all their money, he'd skip across state lines to evade capture. All right? And this guy wound up buying out the entire oil industry. All right? He bought all the barrels 1 year so that his competition couldn't barrel their oil, couldn't get it to market. And now we have a global bottleneck controlled by similar interests. And they don't want people to have energy independence.
Yeah, well, he sounds like your quintessential opportunist, someone who makes a lot of money selling, snake oil, something that doesn't live up to its, to what it's touted as, uses the fact that he's made a huge amount of money to take advantage of another industry, and then on and on and on it goes. I think people need to get better at identifying opportunists who wish to monopolize the world. I mean, a good word to brand these individuals with is slaver. That's what slavers did. It's nothing new. It's old, just repackaged. And I think because they do such a good job of rebranding themselves, we forget what they are.
Precisely. And I think Bill Gates also understood this principle very much, just as John D. Rockefeller did, that at a certain point, the public has had enough of you. And so what you do is you buy out all of the media and get them to do positive puff pieces about you, and suddenly the public loves you.
Yeah, they're very clever, but they're not very sustainable, and which is that's the laughable irony of this here, that these individuals are actually at the head of the table of the sustainable development model, and they're encouraging people to move towards more sustainable things that aren't sustainable. It really is quite amusing.
So let's talk very frankly about you and who you are and what it is you do, because nobody comes into a position like you have at the forefront of protests and things of that nature without a inciting incident, as it's called in the classic hero's quest.
Yeah, what incident would that be?
Well, it's the thing. What road brought you to where you are now?
Oh, right, I see. I guess I've always been a rebel. I've always been a rebel in high school. I think the individual that, the teacher that the subject that bore the brunt of my my rebel nature was physics. I was always getting kicked out of physics class because I was questioning the three theories, and the rebel nature never sort of left me. We moved out into the middle of the bush about 6 years ago. I came from the country and we moved to the city, and then we moved back to the country. And not long after we moved out there, they were dropping 1080 all over our bush. And that's when I got to see firsthand how much bullcrap the corporate state talks. And I guess from there on, it's just been a progression after progression. I started digging, and I still haven't stopped digging. Trying to find a way to some way to protect our children moving forward. What I've found so far, it's so complex to get freedom, real freedom. It's such a complex system to navigate through to get freedom, and I don't want my children to have to grow up in a system that seems to be all about total control. It used to be that you were able to separate yourself from your paper straw man, that you were able to define a clear difference between you, a man or a woman, or a boy or a girl, and your person. And it seems like they're trending towards a system and where there's going to be no difference between the two. The digital ID, all of this stuff. It's creating the picture of a world that gets rid of individuality and creates this hypothetical utopia that really isn't. I really don't want to see any child growing up in that shit, not at all. So the digging started with 1080, and it's sort of gone into a whole host of other fields, and it sort of had to, because you find once you start digging that everything's connected, don't you, Vinny? Nothing is isolated. Nothing's completely separate from everything else. You have to look at things holistically, and if you don't look at the whole picture, you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. You can't just be an anti-1080 activist once you figure out how everything's connected, and you find proof to I guess justify those connections. Then you have to start looking at the bigger picture. Like, what's the root cause of all of this, and how do you solve that problem?
To solve the problems, this is something that people have been talking about a lot lately. And, my thoughts is that I'm a talk radio host. Is it my job to solve the world's problems, or is it my job to do my job, which is to give a platform to people so that they raise awareness? That's part of the solution, I feel. However, of course, it's not a be-all and end-all. It needs other people to fill in the blank spaces on the map, as it were.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think everybody has a part to play. I think I'm not sure what my part is yet. I have found so far, this is my thoughts on it, I think that if we don't build a nation state to protect our inalienable rights, because what we've found so far is that we don't have a nation state, we have a corporate state. We've found that the corporate state wants to turn everything into property so it can interact with it better, more efficiently. The corporate state's goal seems to be more efficiency, more productivity, with not much, I guess, what's the word? Respect for rights and humanity, empathy. And so I guess what the conclusion we've come to based off what we've found is that we need a nation state to protect our inalienable rights. We need a constitution that defines that precisely. And we need a law that can't be subverted to be used in the pursuit of slavery. I sort of laughed when I heard Christopher Luxon's interview the other day, and where he's against modern slavery. I would question that. He's against a certain form of slavery that is growing in the black market, child trafficking, that sort of stuff, and it is growing. It's something along the lines of $150 billion a year industry, and that is a problem. But there's also a problem in the fact that modern society has forgotten its rights. It's forgotten what the law is, and that's a massive problem, because if society tends towards tyranny and chaos because the individuals within that society don't know what the law is, that's a huge problem, because if they don't know what the law is, then they don't know what their rights are. And if they don't know what their rights are, then they don't have any self-respect for themselves. And if they don't have any self-respect for themselves, then they can't have self-respect or respect for others. Which means if you're trying to solve the problem of slavery in the black market, are you forgetting about the problem of slavery in modern society? I mean, I can walk into a courtroom and I can proclaim that you are engaging in slavery by changing my name into all caps. And I can prove that. I can walk in there and prove that and have a cordial discussion with the judge and say to the judge that that individual on that piece of paper is not me. And he can agree without saying that he agrees. And that's ridiculous. And not many people know this. And the reason that they don't know this is because they don't have a constitution to look to that reinstates that you have rights, and they're important. They're important because they create a measure of a man or a woman that is something that people can aim for. And if you can aim for goodness, then maybe your society might trend towards that. But the reality is we've been trending down into the gutter for a long, long time. And in this country, I think that's because we've had an unwritten or a non-existent constitution for such a long time. That's a huge problem, right? If we can't teach our children what it means to be a man or a woman or a boy or a girl and what it means to have rights, what kind of world are they going to live in? And so I think, for me, I think my part to play in this is to advocate for that, and hopefully advocate for it effectively.
Why do you think that people don't see the truth? It's because of how we're raised. We're often raised by the television and the state more than our own parents.
Too busy. Parents are too busy trying to create lots of value for lots of middlemen, right? You know, we used to value a lot more things than just capital gain. There used to be meaning in our lives, and now it's pursuing a huge amount of short-term gratification. You know, we've got all these boxes that we want to tick in terms of having this and having that, and it seems like the list has become infinite since we became the subjects of a corporate state. It never ended. I mean, for myself, this fight has taken huge amounts of time away from my family, just trying to show the obvious to people, that you're not actually living. And because of that, I have to fight instead of live, just to encourage all of you to figure out what living actually is. Like those moments with your partner, or those moments with your child, or appreciating the diversity and beauty of life around you, instead of waking up every morning and chasing more things. That's what intensified in 1984. The pursuit of having more, the pursuit of more rich people. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Roger Douglas himself said that this country needed more rich people, and the economic reforms would give us that, and it certainly has. And I'm questioning whether that's actually been a good thing. I'm questioning that, because I'm looking at some of the things that our leaders are deciding to do to solve problems, hypothetically solve existential problems. Genocide, population reduction, instead of empowering people to be wiser versions of themselves. Seriously? Like that was done back in the 1900s, and it didn't work. It made things worse. And I really am questioning the wisdom of these people that claim to be leaders, because they certainly haven't done enough reading. Certainly not as much as you have, Vinny. That's for sure. You've seen a lot, and I'm quite amazed at your ability to quote movies. You really have done a lot of work at trying to see the bigger picture. I don't think people appreciate the amount of effort you've put into trying to see the bigger picture. And I think that if people put a lot more work into seeing the bigger picture, maybe they'd know what to do about existential problems.
I thought it was very interesting to say, because a lot of people have many, many years of research into a particular topic. And let's say there's 360 degrees in a circle. What if the truth is 360 degrees circular, and you need, relatively base understandings of 360 different concepts before you've got an overall view of the circle that we're in?
Yeah. I said to a friend I was traveling. She said that there was a problem of having destiny and free will in the same conversation, and I asked her, "Well, why do you think that?" And she said, "Well, I mean, if you have free will, then you can't have destiny." And I said to her, "What do you think destiny is? Do you think it's a flag at the end of a straight road, or do you think destiny is a circle that goes around you? And you have free will, but it doesn't matter which way you go. You are going to fulfill your destiny at some point in time."
I thought about it like this, that fate is retrospective. You see all those idiots get up on American Idol and go, it's my fate to win American Idol. And then they lose because they suck. And whereas I look at it kind of like, this happened to me, that happened to me, this, and here I am. Must be my fate to end up where I am. I believe in it retrospectively, that things that happen to you and things you do accumulate the threads of your fate.
Yeah. You're a natural law man. You're a law of attraction. Things, so long as you're positive, things are going to happen, and you embrace your destiny, no matter where you go.
Precisely, and there's trees being cut down outside. So if anybody can hear that, that's what that is. And I'm also very hungry. Sometimes might be my stomach. No, I'm just kidding. But when we look at this sort of concept, I like the what was it? I was thinking of the quote this morning, because you're talking about destiny and movie quotes and stuff like that. And incidentally, one drifted to me this morning by the smokers in Waterworld. Dry land is not just our destination; it is our destiny. Now think about the concept of what dry land is on a world full of water. It's like free land in a world full of slavery. All right? Freedom is not our destination. It is our destiny.
Yeah.
This is the time of history, I think, where great decisions get made by ordinary individuals that influence its course into the future. Are people going to step up, stand up and be counted? It's like that song from the Feelers, it's a great time to live. So it's time to stand up and be counted. Sue and Kiwi were using these words. A lot of people use these words, stand up, stand up, stand up. What does that mean? It means to not bow down. It means to not submit, doesn't it? That's what happens when you stand up in a public meeting and you decry the things that are being said and tell them that they're liars and get carried out by the security staff. What if more people than just one stood up? What would those security staff do? They wouldn't be able to do anything. Is that what we're hoping for? Is that moment of inspiration where you see somebody of a courageous mind committing an esteemed act, and it gives you the encouragement to do one yourself, an act of esteem. That's what we're trying to do here by every day as our examples of people who stand and live and fight for the truth, the hope, the vain, maybe, hope that somebody, somewhere, will listen to it at some point and stand up.
It's interesting our attempt to try and reinstate the Marsden Point oil refinery sort of connects into slavery in some way. It was popular. Oil was popular so long as there was this idea of scarcity around it, and then the moment technology started getting out of the hands of the major oil oligarchs and started getting in the hands of regular individuals, like carbon engineering and stuff like that. The moment carbon became a resource that you could take out of the air as well as the soil, and the moment they started realizing that wells started filling up after they'd been hypothetically emptied, the moment it became apparent to the major oil companies that this thing was in abundance and could only depreciate in price eventually once we started cleaning up our act and we started improving the way that it was processed, the way it was recycled. The moment it became regenerative, they wanted to go to something that was even more scarce, rare earth metals. And all of a sudden, then these oil companies were all jumping on board the climate change narrative and saying, yes, this is absolutely true. We now need to move to this new set of resources that we've invested in now. And that's the insanity of all of this, is that the moment that this became something that could truly free us in terms of travel and then could become something that was less environmentally harmful than what it was before, they all jumped out of it and encouraged all the environmentalists to popularize hypothetical zero carbon technology, of which requires a huge amount of carbon to create it. I can't believe that I'm actually having a battle my ex-fellow environmentalists from Extinction Rebellion. I mean, I used to be in that group on this issue, and they just keep repeating, trust the science, like the new fundamentalist religionists that we have out there now. They criticize religion yet behave like the fundamentalists as well. I mean, I was sitting in these groups going, what the heck is going on with us? Am I subscribing to this new form of insanity?
I was just thinking, when you're saying that, I'm like, dear science, can you do this for me?
It's like, oh, hydrogen's better. Hydrogen burns cleaner. It's like, dude, it's a hydrocarbon, and now you can take it out of the air and turn it back into jet fuel or plastics. Like, you can recycle it. Like, weren't we aiming for regenerative anyway? Like, aren't we aiming to regenerate the things that we've destroyed because we now have woken up and realized that we need to be symbiotic to survive on this planet? We're humanoids. We've gotten out of the animal kingdom. We're clever. We now need to figure out how we recycle everything and we don't act like parasites, because if the humanoid acts like a parasite, it probably won't survive long on this planet. So regenerative is good. If you can turn a resource like oil into a regenerative resource, there you go. You're away. It might not get you through space. You might have to turn to some new free energy source and stop suppressing those things. But right now, it's probably the best for traveling around town. We just need to sort out the problems with leaking and the problems with the emissions, of which has been done. That's done. Proof of concept's been done. You got working models in other countries. What's the problem? I'd love to have a debate with James Shaw on this issue. I'd like to ask him which technology he knows about that's more sustainable than oil now. Like what? Lithium batteries? Lithium batteries are better? Oh, yeah. What happens to lithium if you put it in water? Does it combust? What happens to lithium if it catches on fire? Is it really hard to put out? I mean, this is just ridiculous. This is just the oil companies now wanting to put us on something that's scarcer than this resource so they can control us. That's it. It's always been this model. These people are terrified of empowered human beings because it means they can't be in charge anymore. It's the ego. Like, some of these people that are in Extinction Rebellion talk about the ego and they talk about being woke and they talk about meditation, and they don't even join the dots. Same thing.
Taking a one-eyed approach to the truth.
Yes.
And that. Look at all these green groups and things of that nature. The Rockefeller Foundation gives a lot of money to green groups all over the world. And where does the Rockefeller Foundation get its money from? The oil industry. The oil industry aren't afraid of electric cars. They aren't afraid of wind turbines and solar panels or anything like that. They own the industries that create them, and they're even more profitable because they're even less efficient. And so what they're doing is they're financing the groups to shut down their competition and to shut down the widely available and abundant energy so they can get you not living. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a couple of examples right now. Guardian Glass, Coke Industries, the Koch brothers, they run all of that stuff. I think I put a video on my YouTube that demonstrated where all the resources come for your EV batteries. So different industries, different products, same people, over and over and over again, same families, over and over and over again. I mean, these people that are in Extinction Rebellion, they literally think of the Koch brothers as the devil. And now they run all of their EV vehicles, all of them.
I think about James Shaw and the Kyoto Protocols. It was said that, hey, New Zealand will make a $2 billion profit off of investing in this Kyoto Protocol stuff and getting your carbon. Oh, actually, it cost the country $2 billion. Who was the accountant at PricewaterhouseCoopers that gave us that fraudulent report that they said was an error? James Shaw.
Oh, I know, and it's ridiculous. Like I think my cousin was James Shaw's chief of staff. I think you can look her up. I won't say her name online. I won't dox her. But I I really wanted to send something to James Shaw's office asking him why we're paying for carbon emissions in the carbon trading scheme when 8 million hectares of our native forest sequesters 40 million more tons of CO2 than we emit. Like, that's only 8 million hectares of this country. It's a pinch. That's our native evergreen forests, and that's a research report that's had about 58 citations. They agree with it. And no, nothing. If this is a carbon sink just off 8 million hectares of forest, what about the fields? What about the greenery around town that doesn't get counted? I mean, everything that does photosynthesis sequesters carbon into the soil. Hemp does it really well. Why don't we grow more hemp? Maybe
if we grew hemp and had access to nearly 50,000 industrial products or 25,000 industrial products plus 25,000 to replace the products that we're already using that have become now biodegradable, long lasting, and it's sustainable.
Amazing.
They don't care. It's not about sustainability. It's about control.
Yeah. I mean, they don't want to use hemp because it would be in too much abundance. So, in fact, there's a woman, I watched a TED talk a while ago, a scientist, where she was trying to mimic the suberin content that is in hemp. So that's the thing that makes it sequester a lot of carbon, suberin. They're trying to increase the suberin content in maize, right? So that maize sequesters as much carbon as hemp. And nobody even bothered to ask the question, why don't you just grow hemp and feed that to cows? Why do you have to spend millions and millions of dollars trying to genetically turn maize into a plant that sequesters as much as hemp? You've already got a plant that does that. It's always the hard way with these guys. Always the way of scarcity.
It's simple solutions that really solve problems. A lot of people talk about sociological problems, but many of the sociological problems that the human race previously suffered under were a result of technology not being available that could easily solve them. Oh my God, how do we all keep warm at night and so on and so forth? Somebody invents electricity and somebody invents an electric heater and boom, you've got a problem solved. It's technology and real scientific approaches to things actually do solve problems. But right now we've got what's not known as science, it's known as scientism, where I believe in the science. Okay, does science care about belief? Well, no, but okay, so you're believing in something that requires no belief. Okay, so you're not actually doing your due diligence as a scientific method would actually, ask you to. And so what we're doing here is we're looking at a society that is being programmed very, very well to believe the exact opposite principles of how the natural world truly works. And
I mean, we've got the same people saying who say trust the science, getting offended when you tell them that facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah. And so they start feeling even more offended, as if that's gonna, it's just kicking the can down the road of personal responsibility. From taking moral responsibility comes freedom. All right. By taking that moral responsibility away comes tyranny. It's a simple metric, and it's all the way throughout history. And right here, right now, we're talking about the Marsden Refinery and Brad Flutey, ladies and gentlemen. And so, Brad, we've had a question in the classroom. Just, hey, Vinny, can you ask Brad what everyday is like, what everyday life is like for him and his family? And also, we would also love to hear more about Marsden Point. So, if you please.
Yeah, non-stop, very busy, sometimes very stressful for my family, because it never seems like I've done enough or I'm getting on top of things. A lot of the time very thankless, but it does feel fulfilling. It does feel like I'm deriving a lot of meaning out of this, because it feels like what I'm doing is true to me. But at the same time, I do miss a breather. But the Marsden Point oil refinery issue is something that is very important, mainly because I feel like we're right over the target in terms of the shit that's about to hit the fan right now. I think that this, if we can do a good job of getting the awareness out there that this is one of the main things that is causing the fuel prices to skyrocket, then hopefully we can open a lot more doors up than what we've opened so far in the minds of people out there. I still have a lot of faith in the people who are still criticizing us and refusing to listen to us and looking to just demean us. I still have a lot of faith in a lot of those people out there that they will be able to listen if we just find the right way to get through to them. I've had success with in terms of changing people's minds in the past, and I'm just hoping that we can change some more minds before it's too late. I really don't want this country being sent to a war because it's still controlled by people who would inflict that on us. I think there's a way to get through to the people out there, and I think it's through the fuel, the loss of our fuel independence and our energy independence. I think this is something, and where if we can get all the groups on side with this issue, then we can start having proper discussions about the other issues. And maybe even we don't do that. Maybe we just go, hey, look, okay, we have differences of opinion, but what we can agree on is that we need some independence in a lot of areas, and that we need to figure out who we are as a country. Because I think that identity has been stripped away from us. I think that's what's got us fighting amongst each other. We don't have a uniting identity. We don't have something that we can say, hey, yep, we all agree on this, right? We may have our differences on this, and this, but we all agree that we should have this. And I think I'm hoping that the fuel issue with the Marsden Point is going to open up the door to many houses in this nation. And then we can start talking about things like constitutions and stuff like that. And then maybe we can start to live in a country where we have difficult discussions and we can figure out and struggle towards the truth together. Because I think that this country suffers from a psychological problem called avoidance. We want to avoid talking about difficult things because we're afraid we're going to be offended. And that's the doorway that they've used to get in here to drive division between us. And we need to stop that. We need to find a way to stop that before it's too late for us. I don't want to be dragged into the international insanity that's brewing over in the United States and China and Europe. I don't think we need to go there. I think Kiwis are smarter than that. And if we can get talking, if this issue here can get us talking, and I think we can become united, not through force and not through this panicked insistence that we need unity like now. If unity by force is communism, that's what it is. But unity through difficult discussions, right? Like we're traversing towards unity carefully, that's proper unity.
So the Marsden Point Refinery, for those who don't know, could you give us a quick capsule review?
Sure. So for a long time, they've been wanting to shut down the Marsden Point oil refinery. It's been mostly based around ideology, wanting to reduce carbon emissions. And a lot of the management that's come in through the years have been coming from universities rather than from the operator stock like it used to. See, how it used to happen in the Marsden Point oil refinery is that you started off as an operator, you worked your way up, you found yourself in management, and that refinery would improve over time, not just in its ability to make profit and sustain itself, but in its ability to do the job better. Yeah, at the start, it's a dirty business. Pōwhenua isn't looking too healthy, and that needs to improve. But it's been a refinery for a long time. It's probably going to stay a refinery. Turning it into a tank farm is probably not going to make it any better either environmentally. What it needs to be able to do is improve its refining capabilities and improve its relationship with the environment. 2 years ago, they started having, about 18 months, thereabout, they started looking into the economic viability of the bitumen plant. And what they started to do is they started to rely more on exterior contractors to fix that because it wasn't in a good way. What they used to do is they used to rely on operators to look after that stuff, people who knew the equipment and knew what needed to be done. The bitumen plant was money for jam. It produced really, really good bitumen, and it was part of the reason why the Marsden Point oil refinery was pretty good in terms of its ability to produce a profit. They assessed that this was not financially viable, mainly because they were using exterior contractors that were charging far too much. They shut down the bitumen plant, which undermined its financial viability moving forward, and it just kept getting worse. They started finding financial reasons to turn it into an import terminal. They started saying it would be cheaper to import fuel than to refine it ourselves. See, the refinery didn't just refine crude oil. It was also refining refined fuel that was coming in. It was bringing it up to the standard it was supposed to be. And so when we started to dig in at Marsden, what we needed information. So we started talking to ex-operators and operators in the private, and we were getting all this information. And what it was looking like, it was looking like rank financial mismanagement, coming from universities, loaded with ideologies that was against carbon emissions. And so what was happening is it wasn't just financial mismanagement and financial undermining, but they were ideologically undermining management to be opposed to having a refinery. And so all these issues are very complex and hard to talk about in a short amount of time. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to get there. We wanted to get some awareness around the refinery, and we were hoping that a lot of the competent individuals from Wellington would show up there and get a lot of attention on this issue. We were hoping a lot of different media personalities were going to get attention on this issue. Not necessarily attention around digging at Marsden, but more attention around the fact that the refinery is directly connected to your rising fuel costs and the quality of your roads. And we found that very difficult. We've found that people who are being trapped in talking about yesterday's issues, which doesn't mean that yesterday's issues aren't still relevant because we haven't solved those yet. But if we can't find ways to grow this collective movement against the corporate state, which I believe is the core creator of all of the issues that we're suffering under, we're going to stagnate. And so I thought that the digging at Marsden, or rather the closure of the refinery, would be the way that we open up the door to many Kiwis to say, hey, look, our country's being, for lack of a better word right now, fucked. We need to do something about it. And look, you may not want to know that it's being fucked in more ways than one. Maybe you only want to know how it's being fucked with the fuel prices. That's fine, so long as we start having the conversation. And so we're going to try a variety of ways to get the awareness out around this issue. So on the weekend, we're going to start this campaign called Prove Me Wrong. It's sort of modeled off what Stephen Crowder does in the United States, where he sets up a table and invites people to have conversations about issues. So the issue that we're going to be talking about this Saturday down at the farmers market is that the Marsden Point oil refinery needs to be reinstated. Prove me wrong. And so what we're going to try and do is we need as many people as possible to get this out there, because right now it's completed its 4-yearly shutdown. They've cleaned everything out. And they're going to tell the public that they're going to mothball it. Problem is if that equipment doesn't have crude running through it and the machinery kept from being rusty, it's not going to work. So what we really need is we need millions of Kiwis to be behind getting our energy independence back in one form, being reinstating the oil refinery. So we've got a variety of strategies that we need to roll out. But we need people around the country who are going to be willing to join our team. We need people who are going to be willing to get out there and talk to people, right? We're going to need people who are willing to stop looking at the normies who can't see what's going on as the enemy, but rather a potential ally. We need to improve the way that we communicate with people. We've got to start looking at everybody as our potential brothers and sisters who are just lost at the moment. That's all they are. They're just lost. Yeah, they may frustrate us. Yeah, they may bring out the worst in us sometimes because of their ignorance. But they are our brothers and sisters, and we're going to need them. If we're going to survive what's coming, if we're going to come out the other side as a country and where the rest of the world can look at us and go, hey, those guys are kind of cool. Maybe they are the light of the world. Maybe there's a reason why they're the first country in the world to see the light. Maybe we can be an example to the rest of the world in how we approach existential issues in society. And maybe the Marsden Point oil refinery, the digging at Marsden, maybe that's the issue to start the conversation. Well, that's what I think anyway.
Well, we're looking at this, it's kind of like when you first wake up to, the truth about anything. You get kind of like crazy about it. You want to tell everybody, and everybody just says that you're crazy, and it's like a feedback loop. And I thought about it like, what if we adopted the born-again Christian approach, knock, knock, knock. Hi, have you got 5 minutes to talk about our saviour, the Marsden Point Refinery?
Oh, I hope it doesn't go like that. But maybe we can make it a bit more cool. Yeah, we've got quite a few cool ideas. We've actually got a Telegram channel, and we've got our little think tank team where we come up with ideas that are not trending towards Jehovah's Witness type strategies.
Well, if it ain't broke, but that's what. Hey, all sorts of strategies need to be looked into, and if a strategy works, why does it work? We can't
discriminate.
And can it be grafted? Can it be reverse engineered? Can it be utilized in such a way where it is in fact effective? I think that in New Zealand we've had so many hikoi, so many protests, so many occupations and so on and so forth. But now, since Wellington, we're in a different game now, son. If they want you off there, they'll get you off there, kind of thing. They'll just demonize you in the media for a couple of weeks and lie about you for ages, and then just pull everything in on you and just use all this advanced technology to just suppress the crowds, kind of thing. And that's my big concern right now, is that the cat's out of the bag now.
Yes. You're absolutely right there, Vinny. You've touched on a very important issue. But Wellington needs to be viewed as a lesson, right? Yeah, we achieved a lot in Wellington, but we also got our asses kicked. And I want to go back to Wellington one day and not get our asses kicked. And I think that if we treat Wellington like a lesson and we evolve, then next time we go there, we're gonna do it a hell of a lot better than what we did, and we would have learned our lesson. And we would have hopefully trended off in a better direction than what we're being pushed in at the moment.
Yeah. Well, one can only hope. Now, we've got about 10 minutes left in the broadcast today, and we've got a question in here on the Skype. Oh, sorry, the Facebook chat, you'll have to forgive me. I've done 4 shows this week. It's very exhausting for some reason.
You're doing well, mate.
Is ExxonMobil the owners of the monopoly now and beforehand? Is Ampol under their umbrella? I'm not sure if you'd be able to answer that question or perhaps explain it.
That's a tricky one to answer. I mean, what I do know is the 3 major shareholders are Ampol, who bought Z Energy, which used to be Shell, Mobil, which is your ExxonMobil, that's correct, yep, and BP. Right, those are your 3 major shareholders. Those are the ones that are influencing the direction of the refinery away from refining towards importing refined fuel. Right, so reducing the amount of refineries, so there's scarcity in refined fuel, and then also there's questions around its quality, the quality of the jet fuel, quality of your imported bitumen, and the quality of your imported diesel and petrol.
So when it comes down to brass tacks here, this is the only strategic asset in New Zealand that refines oil from raw, like crude oil.
That's correct.
In New Zealand, I think in the Great South Basin, I talked to Tim Shadbolt's son about this, and he said that we have a huge untapped resource out there, and Tim Shadbolt was trying to get it in, but then sell it off at like cents a barrel or something like that to overseas. So we've got this massive kind of thing. It's almost like Game of Thrones out there in the top echelons of these corporate ladders. Everybody's stabbing each other in the back, working this way and that, and I'm getting sick of it. I really am. I'd really love it if in human society we could just sit down and have an honest conversation about each other.
Yeah, I would love that too.
Just hear it out. Okay. And now you get to talk. And then before you know it, everybody's familiar with the situation from everybody's perspective. And then we can figure out what the truth is and what to do about it. I mean, is this something that hasn't occurred to people? Or is it, you know what? You know what it is. I can have another joke. There's these 2 ascended masters, and they have very different religions, but both of their religions tell them that there is such a thing as the mountain of truth, and that if you meditate hard enough, you'll be able to see it for yourself. And so these 2 ascended masters on opposite sides of the world are meditating real hard, and they both do it. One guy works out on one side of the mountain of truth, and the other guy on the other side. From one side, it looks like it's got these big boulder formations down the bottom and a big shaft that goes up with another boulder formation on the top. And from the other side, it looks like a cascading ridges and caves with a little bit of a cave in the middle there. And one ascended master yells out, "Hey, it looks like a dick, you pussy!" And the other guy goes, "No, it looks like a pussy, you dick!" And the other guy goes, "Don't call me a dick, you pussy!" And the other guy goes, "Well then don't call me a pussy, you dick!" And if the moral of the story is that if you do see the truth, the chances are very good that you'll be too much of a dick or too much of a pussy to look at it from other people's perspectives.
That's it. It's beautiful. Yeah, that also reinforces a theory I had that the problem that humanity has been struggling with for such a long time to solve is finding harmony between the masculine and the feminine. I think that story suggests that as well, Vinny.
Yeah, well, especially because there's not a whole lot of masculinity that's being encouraged these days.
I'm trying to encourage it. I'm trying. Everyone gets offended at me.
Oh, it's toxic masculinity. Oh, you mean like the kind of thing that will kill threats to his family? You know, that's toxic masculinity, is it? The kind of person who sees his community in danger and stands up to protect them as a guardian? That's toxic masculinity, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like subversion to me.
I mean, there's people basically have what I call the MSU policy. It stands for making shit up.
Yep. No, they don't want to do the work to act as if they know things. And even then, all you know is not all you could know.
Yeah. And it's hard work. All right? Telling the truth, looking for it. And the hardest part is seeing the truth about yourself.
Yeah,
your own
it's the
failings, your own misgivings. Oh, what have I done? What are my mistakes I've made? That kind of stuff. A lot of people too cowardly to look into that sort of stuff. You know, they'll talk
yeah.
about conspiracy theories or activism all day long, but as soon as you hold a mirror up to them and say, have a look at this, they're like, and they walk out
Yeah.
the room.
It is true that the greatest enemy is within.
So, Brad, I can see I'm holding you up here. Last thoughts and shameless self-promotion, if you please, and then we'll be wrapping this show up.
Okay, well, I'll so everyone that wants to join in with the Digging at Marsden, check out the Digging at Marsden Facebook page, or check out www.securemarsdenrefinery.nz. The Facebook link and the Telegram link is on that page. If you want to send us a message, you can email us, or you can just message through the Facebook page. And if you're interested in hearing offensive stuff that may be pursuing the truth, you can check out Horace Media on Facebook or Horace Media on Telegram. The Telegram link you can get off the Facebook page. And keep listening to Vinny Eastwood as well. I like Vinny Eastwood's shows.
Well, thank you very much. I get that a lot. Now, we've got donations and sponsorships and things of that nature coming in from you, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, with the rising costs of everything, we need a little bit more, ladies and gentlemen. So please go to thevinnyeastwoodshow.com/donate.html, thevinnyeastwoodshow.com. That's Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question. And Eastwood, like, go ahead, make my news. .com/donate.html, and please make a donation. You can donate through PayPal, KiwiBank, or support us via the band on Patreon. And do really appreciate all those of you who've signed up and done automatic payments and things of that nature. It does make getting through things on a week-by-week basis much easier. And as you can see, we are back on deck and doing the show regularly now. So hopefully everybody will be able to tune in on a daily basis. If you are a donor, you can request a guest, have a private call with me, or get my help with your media project or idea. And also you get access to the Secret Donors Club on Foshborg, where you get some exclusive content. Our sponsors, holdenhealthcare.com, emphasis on the care, is a naturopathic specialist in hard-to-treat cases. So if you need an oncologist, somebody to help you out with that cancerous business that is affecting so many in today's society, think about going into naturopathic care at holdenhealthcare.com. There's a medical disclaimer on there as well for any of the medical mafia who are watching. Reopen.nz is our other sponsor as well. It is a directory of anti-mandate, pro-choice, all-inclusive businesses in New Zealand, and many, many businesses throughout the country have signed up from a bunch of different eclectic fields, and it is high time for everybody to put their business on there, please. And the Vinny Eastwood Show does not encourage the breaching of COVID-19 rules. Bear in mind, you can get the archives.
What COVID-19 rules?
Shh. It's banned. It's banned. We talk about it. On the archives page on the VinnyEastwoodShow.com, you can just click show archives and you can get all of the shows that we're doing, especially because of the lovely Julia, who is archiving them on Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, the One Great Work Network, and Facebook for us, and putting all those archives there on the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and adding the little tags and everything. So, man, there's over a decade worth of archives there, like 20,000 hours of published content with some of the biggest truth talkers that you could really think of. And it's all thanks to the wonderful people like you who suggest all of these guests, because, taking the time to watch somebody's thing, I'd much rather, if I have the ability, interview them. It kind of like cuts out the middleman, doesn't it, Brad?
Yep.
So, without, as they say in Israel, further ado, thank you very much, Brad, for coming on to us. What was it? Reopen Marsden Point? I need that website one more time, bro. I'm going to put it on
Secure. So very, very, very militaristic. Secure Marsdenrefinery.nz.
Marsden Refinery.
There's also a petition on there. We've got a petition on that website. and that petition goes towards a representative action, and where we're hoping to take channel infrastructure management to court for financial mismanagement.
Well, one can only hope the New Zealand court system is not the most corrupt in the world. Oh, wait.
Yeah, no, that won't work. It's just for popularity, mate. You know, if it gets in the papers and stuff, maybe people will start looking at channel infrastructure, and channel infrastructure will get nervous. These individuals don't like being brought into the light, and that's what we hope to do.
You know what? This is reminds me of something Dr. Rima Lambo told me, is that when you get a shockingly large amount of people... Brad's just gone on hold there for a second. All right, well, I guess I'll just tell you, ladies and gentlemen. When you get
someone's trying to ring me.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. When you get a shockingly large amount of people all saying the exact same thing, email inboxes being full and stuff like that, saying, don't you dare. This is what Dr. Rima told me. They back off. Now, the problem with these people is that they'll push the envelope, and if you push it back, they'll take it underground for a little bit and then come back up later and push it again. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, ladies and gentlemen. What does liberty mean? It means if I told you to do something, you could say no and experience no consequences at all. All right? That is when you have liberty. Thank you so much, Brad, for
thank you, Vinny,
for joining us today.
Good to see you back, mate. It's good to see you back.
Yeah, it feels good to be back, you know. Thank you very much, ladies, gentlemen, slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child-trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. Seriously, they're just awful.
You truly are a unique soul, my brother.